YouTube is and social media is full of people talking about Diddy and all that. Didn't want to just keep rehashing things, so I wanted to add something new to the discussion. And I was with Courtney Brown. We were talking about the disco era and stuff, and we were listening to Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive, and it made me think of how really during Puffy's peak musically, so many of those songs were just, sample is a generous word. It was, I'm coming out. Oh, wow. I just thought, remember that song? I'm coming.
You know what I mean? When I specifically said to my uncle, yo, this was summer of 91. We made a lot of money.
Just on cocaine?
Just with me, mostly heroin. We made a lot of money.
How much
just with me.
How much
just with
you
me.
earned in that year? Millions.
3-4 million.
Yeah. But no, you wanted to get into music.
I said, yo, we should get in the music shit. We should get in the music business. And his response was, that shit is said. He was dead serious. I didn't know how I didn't, when he said it, I didn't take it literally. I didn't take it literally. I didn't take it literally.
But he meant it.
But he meant it literally.
Figuratively and literally.
Yes, he meant it literally. He was like, whoa.
He took stuff from the disco era and that whole ghetto fabulous. That was a very Harlem, and then maybe like Detroit and Chicago and a few other places had it in the 70s, but definitely Harlem as the epicenter of black population. It had really grimy areas, but Harlem had politicians, business people. It was about, we're black and maybe it's edgy, but it's also very glamorous, beautiful people. We dress up. He took that 70s, that Nicky Barnes era that his father, Melvin Combs, was a part of, and I don't know what involvement his mother, I'm not saying she was involved in criminal stuff, but she, they lived there. She dated Melvin Combs. He really just packaged up something from the past, and he put that gloss on it, the streets, some violent. Biggie brought you to Biggie wasn't really a drug dealer killer himself, but he brought you that danger component, and then Puffy had the ghetto fabulous. That was, for those of you not old enough, that was a phrase that kind of came up around that time, and Bad Boy in its peak, that's, what it was. Drug dealer chic. They weren't drug dealers, but that's who they got the style from.
Culture of that developing, that burgeoning music style that came to be called hip hop by the corporates, it kind of fueled and heightened the awareness of this thing that had been so present that it was almost peripheral to kids in the hood. Drug dealing and all that, they knew it was there, but it was there, and it was always like, mind your business.
It wasn't allowed to hang around us.
So they knew we were there, but
if you weren't buying drugs,
they weren't really paying no attention like that, right? Early 80s, 84, 85.
And of course, fine with the influx of cocaine.
Yes, with the influx of cocaine and the downtrending price of it, and the availability. So it got cheap, fast, and a lot, right? And I remember seeing kids who had like jobs, young guys with jobs, and they would walk around with a pager on.
Or to pretend.
But the pager wasn't on.
Pretend it's on drugs.
They would just be pretending. They'd have a pager, they'd have a little 10-karat gold chain.
You need to know that while on the surface, criminals can be very appealing, I think hopefully most of us know the reality of serious crime is very dark. That's why the movie, for those of us that are into mob movies, Godfather's a movie you watch, but Goodfellas is considered probably the best mob movie because it really showed the seamy side of we're just out here money grubbing, kill your best friend, for money. Of course, the famous Lufthansa heist, Jimmy Burke knocks off all the people who helped him, who were his friends, just so he could keep all the money to himself. But not only is there that, but the decadence and debauchery. So here's a clip of Dapper Dan, and shout out to whoever shot this clip. I'm putting a link to your channel on here.
And he'll either feel bad, he'll do anything to it.
So the question is, how do you think about the whole Puff Daddy situation that's going on right now?
Often watching this to this carefully. I grew up with Puff Daddy's parents. And yeah. Go on the fun. We all come from Harlem, born that very trip.
You know, you didn't think talk of privacy.
No matter what happens in the culture, it didn't just start.
And in a minute, the other is problems less.
All right? No matter what happens in the culture, it didn't start, just start. A lot of things that you see happen came about from not even from my generation, but the generation that became before me.
So look what Dapper Dan, he thought, this is right before Puffy got taken into custody. He was questioned, swirling. So think about what he said. He thought for a long time. He said, I hung out with Melvin Combs, Dapper Dan, whatever went on in Harlem, 70s, 80s, 90s, Dapper Dan knows. And if you don't know who Dapper Dan is, he influenced the culture with fashion. He came, I don't know what he's convicted of, so I don't want to say the things I was told he was involved in. I don't know what he's convicted of, but let's just say he came from the streets into fashion. That's how he knew all the street guys, and that's how he was respected to hold his, people, he was able to be in Harlem and make money and not get pressed, I guess. So he knows everything that happened. But look what he said. Nothing that's going on was made up, now or back. So extreme sex, weird sex, drug stuff, because a bunch of people with too much money, kind of twisted and demented.
By having these players' balls and these, sessions where there's a block party and everybody's there, and you see a line of these, chrome and fucking exotic goddamn vehicles and motherfuckers, casual of it, but they just super fucking fly, and you're in the midst of some of the poorest fucking people in the country. And those images don't give way to the realities behind them of, sometimes going into a shooting gallery. It would be a hallway lined with people lying around, ulcers as big as your fist, dripping with pus, feet as big as an elephant's foot.
That's where the money came from.
That's where all of this glitz and glam came from. If you're removed from that part of it, then it's very easy to romanticize the outcome. If you're not removed from that part of it, and you're a participant in the glitz aspect of it, even as you're sitting around in your nice car with your fresh outfit on, your silk leisure suit from AJ Lester and all of that, and you sitting there with your snakeskin shoes on and all of that, with your big diamond pinky ring and shit like that, and motherfucker buffing up the chrome and all of that. Your thinking is that you're thinking, while everybody's looking at you, the little the girls looking at you all like, oh, he's everything. Because there's nothing, you could be the most unattractive guy in the world, but if you're adorned in all of the things, all the trappings that they dream about, you represent more than just what you look like. You represent all the greatest possibilities in life. But at the same time, you're looking at them, looking at you, like the guys, all the young guys want to be like you. They're looking at you and they just want to say hi to you, whatever, and you giving out dollars and shit like that. But you know what you're thinking? You're thinking, damn, I hope that motherfucking package don't fall. Damn, I hope this motherfucker don't fuck up that motherfucking money, because if he do, these things gonna drop me out the window. You know, so-and-so and such going to, take me somewhere and shove a fucking broomstick up my ass. Yeah. Or stick a needle in my arm with some battery acid that they scraped off the top of a fucking car battery.
Legal stuff, streets, gangsters coming together. I mean, Puffy's being accused of using, of having violent people around him to blowing up Kid Cudi's car. He hasn't been convicted, but I mean, Roger Bonds, who was a security guard, is convicted murderer back in the day. Doesn't mean that Roger Bonds was involved in any of the degeneracy, but point being, Puffy began to surround himself with respected, at least at one time, dangerous guys from the streets of Harlem. So what is he saying? I used to run with Melvin Combs. There's nothing new. Now, let's see what Cavario says. Now, that was a clip that may get used, or at least as part of the interview process with our new documentary, Beyond Street Dreams. Me and Courtney Brown of Motown Mafia are putting together. We went to New York, interviewed Cavario, some other people, Branson. Some of the most sick and demented people. So are drug dealers the way they're in the rap songs, like Rick Ross, we flip keys and then we're just at the club with champagne and girls? Well, there's definitely people that are major traffickers that are not sick and demented people. I wouldn't be interacting with a sick and demented person, but there's certainly people that are. So let's specifically talk about this weird SEX stuff and drugs. Cavario had told me long ago about, so Cavario's, read his book, Raised by Wolves. It's not urban literature. It's really well written. Cavario's mother, Cavario's block was 116th and 8th, 115th and 8th. The corner, the epicenter of the drug trade in Harlem, which is the epicenter, at least as far as heroin in the 70s, 80s, 90s, probably now, I don't know. 100 was their corner, one corner of their, like the end of their block is where Frank Lucas was, Nicky Barnes, New York Freddie, and Cavario's family controlled the block off the corner. This is true. This is a fact. And Cavario's mother, let's just say for shorthand, would have been sort of maybe a notch or maybe two notches beneath like a Nicky Barnes in the Harlem food chain. So she specifically told Cavario when he was maybe 12 or 13, if I'm not around, don't you ever talk to, be around, do anything with, don't even talk to, get away from Nicky and any of them people. You see how they got them young boys riding around in their cars. Now, for those of us from neighborhoods where there's drug dealers and we growing up, that's a thing of like, oh, you let the young guys drive your car, and that doesn't necessarily mean there's molestation going on, which is what sex between a grown man and even a 15-year-old boy. Even if he got on a big chain and he carry a gun, if he has sex with a man, is molestation. Now, I'm not saying every drug dealer let a young guy drive his car is doing that. But think about, what if you were out and about and you saw a 16-year-old boy driving my Porsche truck around, and he ain't my, and I don't mean like I'm at the end of the block and he's the neighbor's kid and I let him up and drive down the street. Like I give him my Porsche and he ain't my nephew. Would that be odd? Well, yeah, it would be odd. Because I'm not, but now if I was a drug dealer, would it seem, oh, well, that's just some fly shit to do? Maybe. But Cavario's mother specifically was saying that that crew, that Harlem, the Nicky, not everybody in Harlem, but that Nicky was the top of the food chain, that crew were just degenerates. And Nicky himself talks about, if you combine COK, Coke, and PCP together, it's the best sex ever. I mean, he had he was known for having, not young girls, but young women, 19, 20, 45. Again, that's legal, and lots of people do that, and that's fine. But certainly, being a huge drug dealer, and you're already rich, and you're still doing it, you're somebody whose brain is attuned to needing extreme, to get your dopamine, you need, we got 100,000, I need to make 1 million. We need to kill somebody. I need 4 women. Let's turn out this boy. I don't know. But she wouldn't have told her son Cavario that if she didn't think it was worth telling. And there are sick, listen, when I was, late 80s, early 90s, when the crack was really bad, it was a known thing. Like if you were a young guy selling drugs, like those grown women, I'll give you some head for a rock. But is the woman the victim? If it's 14, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old boys and a 30-year-old woman, you think if 30-year-old male drug addicts couldn't go around trading sex to 14-year-old female drug dealers, they wouldn't gladly do it, and we would think it was the most degenerate thing ever, because it would be. Why is it different? Because it's the boy, the male, is underage. It's not. And we talked about before a certain dope man in Detroit. It's known he was up the food chain, and we think he's still alive, that take the dick, get the bricks was real, and it's known, people know about it. It was somebody that was way up the food chain, and there was people who took him up on the offer. Because that stuff goes on in every element of society. Why wouldn't it go on in the streets? But in the streets, you have more people in a distressed situation, young people poor in the neighborhood who's selling drugs as young teenagers, people on drugs. There's much more desperation in that world. Melvin Combs came from Nicky's crew. I mean, he wasn't up the food chain, but he was the flunky of a flunky. Like, he was part of that world. And Puffy recreated that world of disco era dope man Harlem with his Ghetto Fabulous, because he didn't make that up. It was that Superfly era was the original Ghetto Fabulous. But what else was brought out of that time with Puffy? Just some food for thought as we think about the street culture that has become pervasive to worship amongst some people. Because at this point, a lot of people aren't, not the money you're interested in, it's this whole idea. Okay, say somebody who sells drugs, illegal drugs, you could say, well, they're no different than someone who sells cigarettes and alcohol. Probably so. But nobody treats the Middle Eastern or the whatever guy at your corner store who makes a bunch of money selling Newports and E&J VSOP, nobody treats him like he's the coolest guy ever, the bee's knees, because he sells Newports. But yet, some of you treat people just because they sold some dope, they from the trenches, that in and of itself makes them cool. That maybe you did that and you're cool, but that doesn't make you cool. That's just a source of income. So the streets are debauched and degenerate. And what came along, what's ghetto fabulous? Is that total unbridled hedonism? Like apparently Mr. Freakoff was engaged in, and people don't generally pick up new behaviors when they're 50 or 40 or even 30. You know, a few do. Probably going on all along. Did he bring it out of childhood? Maybe Puffy didn't have a strong mother like Cavario to protect him from the predations of the Harlem street life back in the 70s. Our Profit American dope.